Okay, we got some, well, I don't know if you can call it sunlight, but not as heavy a cloud cover today. Anyway, there's enough light coming through my big picture window. What I did is I went ahead and I cut a stitch groove on this one. I don't always stitch groove stuff, but it made sense to do it on this one because it is going to be an inside the waistband concealment holster, and that'll reduce the amount of friction on that outside stitch edge, on stitch line rather. On this part, on the inside stitch line, you really don't have to put a stitch groove on it, because once it's molded, like on this one here, the raised outline of the molded area will serve to help protect that stitch line. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking my little two-pronger punch here, and I'm just marking it. I'm not punching through yet, but I'm starting at one end and marking where I intend to put the stitch holes. Just kind of give it a little tap, set in the groove, give it a tap, and what that's going to show me is when I get to the end, if I don't come out even, then I'll know how much room I have to make up for. Like if I'm just short of the end, I know I'm going to have to stretch it out just a little bit as I go along, or squeeze it in a little bit as I go along. And if you do just a little bit at a time, then you never notice. Seriously? Well, heck, they came out even, so that's a good thing. That's a happy coincidence. But now that I know that, I can go ahead and bang my my stitch holes on through. Eyeball it, make sure it's straight. Just bang it on through. After I do this stitch line, then I'm going to do the same thing with the inside stitch line. And we'll be back. Right, I got all the stitch holes punched, so I guess the next thing to do is to go ahead and stitch it. I wasn't sure if I wanted to stitch it first and then burnish it, but then I saw down at this end it's a little bit open, so I'm going to want that closed together with the stitching before I go to burnish that edge. I've already got my needles locked onto my thread. And I figure the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to start here and then stitch along this edge here, then stitch it up on the inside and come back to this stitch line. I figured that will give me the strongest stitch line. So we'll start at the top, even it up, and again I just eyeball the amount of thread I'm going to need and hope for the best. No, I'll be alright. Wallow out the hole a little bit, and then I'll put this one on top of this one. Oh no, wait a minute, I'm coming back toward me, so I want to go underneath on this section. Make sure I didn't perforate, or well, make sure I didn't stick my needle into my thread. Can't think of the official word right now. And just keep on stitching this way. Oopsie. Watch out for that now. And as I said in other videos, you don't have to kill the thread to pull it tight. Oopsie. Yeah, I'm saying a lot of oopsies today, huh? Get that little tug, make sure I didn't... I still can't think of the word. Stick my needle in my thread. Oh, it's wanting to tie a knot there. Yeah, another thing to watch out for. Because if you pull it too tight before you undo it, it'll be really difficult to fix. Anyway, I'm going to get this knot out, and oh, there we go, and continue on, and we'll come back when I'm a little bit further along. See you in a minute. Okay, what I've done is I've come down here and I came around this corner, and when I did that, I'm stitching the other way now. Instead of putting my second stitch underneath, I'm putting it on top. And what that does is it keeps my stitches consistent. It doesn't really make a difference on how strong the stitch line is, but what it does is it keeps it aesthetic. And that's also important when you're doing your own leather work. You want it to look good. Now the only thing on doing an inside the waistband holster like this is which side's the front. Well, I decided that this side's the front. Why? Just because I decided that. Well, like I said, this one's going through. And then the second stitch, I'm pulling this stitch back, and the second stitch is going on top. Give that a little tug, make sure I didn't pierce the thread, and pull it snug. And again, you don't have to like strangle it. Just pull it snug, and that is fine. You could if you want to, because this leather stitching cord is really quite strong. Well, I'm almost to the end here of this stitch line. It doesn't take long. This has maybe been about, I don't know, half hour, maybe 40 minutes or so of stitch time. When I first started, yeah, it took a long time. Okay, I'm almost to the end. I'll make sure I put it in my stitch holes properly. Now I'm going to meet back with this stitch line here. Ooh, that's snug. Get that out the way. So I'm going to go ahead and mash it down on my work surface here to get it through. This may look a little clumsy now. I'm pretty sure I'm going to need my pliers for this in here. Yeah. Okay, I didn't pierce it. Take my little smooth jaw pliers. Grab a hold of that and pull it straight. Now if you're really uncool, you'll pull it straight and then you'll yank it right off the end of the thread. It's no big deal to redo it at the end, but it's kind of a pain. Now to do my back stitching. Okay, now since I'm going back, I want my second stitch to go underneath of my first stitch. Just to keep it consistent. Now I'm just going to go back 2 or 3 and then burn the ends of it. I'll show you that in a second here. I got a couple more to do. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go through to the back side one more time, and then we'll go ahead, trim it, and melt the ends. One more time through. Boop. Make sure both of these are snug. Take my scissors and cut them off. Leave just a little bit of a nub sticking out the end there. Take my cheap lighter. Yeah, I'm not going to use my cigar. I guess I could use my cigar lighters to do this actually. But this is one I keep with my leather stitching kit. Make sure everything's down and melted. And it's just, yeah, there's your stitch line. Oh, I don't know if you can see it, but I put my little bear paw on there too. Now, next thing to do is beat the living daylights out of it. And that'll help to make sure that this stitch line is down in the groove. And also, what it'll do is it'll kind of encourage the leather to close in around the stitches, which also makes the stitch line stronger. So just, you don't have to like beat it into submission, just and that's it for the stitching. Now I'm going to go ahead and burnish that edge. And we'll be back with that. See you then.